Okay, so my throat's feeling a little better. I still feel a little bit sick, but between starting off late this week from being out of town and then being sick, it doesn't look like there's going to be really any tutorials this week. But don't worry, I'll have plenty for you next week. But I thought I'd take this opportunity to ask you guys a question and then try to answer a question that I've answered in the past, but I'll try to do a better job of it, or at least do it again so that more people see it. First off, my question for you. How are you liking the scheduled videos? It's been about 2 months now that we've been doing our Monday through Friday, Music Mondays, Terminal Tuesdays, so forth and so on. Do you like that, or does it not matter to you? Because I'm asking because it'd be a lot easier for me if I wasn't on a schedule. I think that I'm missing out on giving some tutorials to you guys because of the schedule. I'll give you an example. We started 2 weeks ago working with phone stuff and working on a Python script with a number pad to use calleridfaker.com and create a little app, GUI app with Python for that. It's been 2 weeks. This week I'm not going to get a video done just to get out the simple script, which I've already finished. I just need to make tutorials on how I did it. It's going to take like over a month because I'm only doing Python videos on Friday. And this happens a number of times where I'll start a tutorial that's going to take more than one video because there's multiple steps, but I have to spread it out over a couple of weeks. And I can't just record it all at once because I've got other videos to do because I need to keep on schedule. So even though something like this video that we've been working on, or this script that we've been working on, I've already finished, and I'm ready to move on and teach you guys other stuff. There's other stuff I want to teach you on. I keep having to go back to this each week, try to remember where I left off the week before, and it's kept me from actually finishing some tutorials. I'll give you an example, music tutorials. I've done 1 video on Specimen using sound samples with MIDI. I've done 2 with Q-Tractor. And I want to get into Milky Tracker because a lot of people have asked for it. But it's like I'll do 1 or 2 videos and I want to do more, but it's just like I kind of have moved on because I want to keep on moving on. So for me, it'd be a lot easier for me to not be on a schedule and be able to maybe record a bunch of videos in one day and upload 5 or 6 videos on one day and then not do any other videos the rest of the week. Or even record a few in a day or 2 and then upload them over a couple of days rather than try to record a bunch and then post them for the next couple of weeks, or record one and the next week try to remember where I left off the week before. Also, if I do record a lot of videos now and I try to upload them to YouTube and schedule them to be posted at certain times on certain days, I don't think they go into everyone's subscription boxes then, because I'll give you an example. All my JavaScript tutorials, I get all those in one day and I upload them and schedule them to be released every Wednesday for about 2 months, and they barely get any hits. So I just don't think that once they go public they're going into people's inboxes. There's something not right because I could upload a video and get a couple hundred hits in a day or 2, where these videos will have like 50, 60 hits after like a week. So something is not happening right there, and I think it's a YouTube issue. So that's one thing. So I'm going to put a poll in the description. Check out the link in the description and vote whether you want me to keep a schedule or just do videos as I learn new stuff to teach you. Because another thing, I'll learn something new and I want to teach it to you. Well, by the time we get around to finishing up what I'm working on, I may have forgotten about what I had already wanted to teach you guys. So the next thing is I'm going to try to answer a question. This is a question that I've been asked a number of times. I constantly get asked. I've mentioned in videos before, I've replied in comments, but in comments I can't really explain what I'm saying, and people ask me all the time basically questions like, what's your favorite distro? What distro do you use most often? Why do you use the distro you use? And I'm gonna tell you it doesn't really matter. And that may not be the answer people are looking for, but I'll try to answer those questions and explain what I mean by that. My favorite distro is Debian. My most commonly used distro currently is Linux Mint, but I constantly use different distros for different uses. Why is Debian my favorite? I find it to be probably the most stable that I've experienced. People can disagree with me, that's fine. And also the make or break for me when it comes to distros is repositories, and Debian has very full repositories. Debian also allows you to start with a very base system and build up to create a very stable and efficient system. Now that's great, but lots of times you may want an out-of-the-box ready system. And that's why I choose Linux Mint for that. And the reason I'll choose Linux Mint over Ubuntu, some personal preferences, I just am not a fan of Ubuntu, the way it is out of the box. But also, the reason I like an out-of-the-box system is because I run my operating system a lot of times off a USB flash drive because I like having a fresh system. That may not be the case on my desktop, but on my ePC or lots of times on my laptop, I'll just be running off a USB stick. And Mint, at least now the DVD version, has Flash and Java and video codecs all installed by default. And yes, a lot of that stuff's easy to install with one command on something like Ubuntu installing restricted extras. But if every time you boot you have to connect online and install those packages, it's just a little bit of a pain in the butt. So that's the reasons I'll pick Linux Mint over Ubuntu. Is just I prefer the out-of-the-box setup and some of the packages. Also, I stick with Linux Mint on my desktop because I know a lot of people use Ubuntu, and Linux Mint is very popular too. And most of the tutorials, if I do, I know it's going to be pretty much identical on an Ubuntu system. Because people argue over Ubuntu and Linux Mint, people argue over distros altogether, and it really doesn't matter, and I'll get more into that in a second. But 99% of Linux Mint uses repositories that are the Ubuntu repositories. If you look at it, it's using the exact same repositories. So like sometimes I'll be like, oh, you know, I'll be chatting with someone online, I'll be like, oh, this program is acting up. Oh, well, it's because you're using Linux Mint, you should be using Ubuntu. It's getting it from the same repositories, it's the same program. Besides a few things that Linux Mint has its own repositories for, like their start menu and just a handful of other things, their updater, it is Ubuntu. So it's like people argue over the two. It's like it's the same thing. It's just what you like different out of the box. Now, the difference between building a system up from the ground and using something that's ready to use out of the box, well, now we're getting into, you know, efficiency and what's efficient for you. Now, are you looking for something that's time efficient and just ready to go? Well, hey, Linux Mint, Ubuntu, and a lot of distros. I'm sticking with those two just because I like Debian-based distros, but Fedora and CentOS, I don't really use them much, but they're pretty much going to be ready to go out of the box. And most distros nowadays will auto-detect hardware for you and try to install the proper drivers if they're not already installed. So really, you know, it's just a matter of choice, and it's like, as long as it's open source, you can make Debian do everything, and you can make it exactly like Ubuntu is, and you can make Linux Mint just like Ubuntu, and it's just because they're all based on the same stuff. They're all open source because you can make it anything you want. So why does it matter? It's just like, it's just a personal opinion out of the box when it comes to, when you're looking for an out of the box solution, which one you go with. Now, if you're looking to create a real efficient system, something like Arch Linux or Gentoo or Debian are great for building up and getting it just how you like it. Some may give you a little more control from the base system. Really, though, once again, you can make any of them do what the other ones do as well. So it definitely will take more time because you have to customize everything, but you're going to get a better running system and you're going to understand the system more, which is also a big time plus if you ask me, but some people don't care. But you can also take something like Ubuntu and strip it down to what you get, but that's kind of working backwards to try to get what you want by starting up high and removing. You really should start down low and build what you want. And you can also get, you know, lighter weight versions of Ubuntu or Linux Mint that run on XFCE or LXDE, you know. But once again, they're going to have stuff installed that you may not necessarily need. And that's, if you're talking about being efficient, you're not being as efficient as just installing the minimal of what you need. You can also say that desktop systems nowadays are so fast, it doesn't make a difference because you have more power than you need in most systems. And really only older systems or maybe handheld devices do you really need to build up from the ground up. Those are just arguments, and it's just a matter of opinion and what you need. So as far as choosing a distro, it's really all personal opinion, because as long as you're going open source, you can make one distro do everything another one does. It's just how much work you want to put into it. That being said, really the make and break for me when it comes to different distros is repositories. I've mentioned many times the big time security when it comes to Linux and open source is having well-maintained, secure repositories with open source software in them. Yeah, you can go and get any program you want and compile it yourself from a website, and if you're compiling it, that's fine if you're looking through the code, but lots of programs are really big and you don't have time to look through all the code. But you're taking a chance anytime you go out to a website, whether someone's doing a man-in-the-middle attack or if this site is running some sort of scam, or you just don't know because the software hasn't been checked as thoroughly as having a well-maintained distro. And once again, I'll use Debian as an example because it has 3 stages, unstable, testing, and stable. And for a package to get all the way through to stable, it's got to go through a lot of testing, a lot of usage from more advanced users. You may get older software if you're using stable, but that's the drawback of using stable. You can go testing or unstable and get right off fresh programs, and you're going to take a chance of having glitches or maybe even malicious software possibly. And I always recommend using repositories whenever possible. There are going to be a few occasions where you need to go to a website. And I find that Debian and Debian-based distros tend to have really good repositories. A distro I really like is Slitaz. Slitaz is great as far as light, small distros that are easy to use. It is great. But it's also early in development. I don't think the repositories are well maintained or checked as something like Debian. It's just, since it's in its early stages, I would not trust Slitaz on a system that I need, that's a server or something that I'm depending on, but it's fun to play with and has a lot of uses. So it's all, and if you're using a really old machine and you're looking for something to just work out of the box, Slitaz is a great answer for an out-of-the-box solution for older machines. But once again, you'd probably be better off taking your time and building something like Debian up from the ground. And, most modern distros have pretty good repositories. Any distro can be made to do what any other distro does, because as long as you stick open source, anything can be ported over. So I hope that kind of answers the question of when people ask me what I think is the best distro and why, and it's just really a lot of it is just personal opinion. It doesn't really matter, I'm sure there are some bad distros out there that just aren't well maintained or put together, and I recommend sticking, if you go to something like DistroWatch, sticking with some of the ones that are towards the top of the popularity list, just because that they're commonly used, and if the more that they're used, the more likely people are going to find problems and fix them, and that's what open source is all about, and being a community, where if it's less used, it could be good, but it might have glitches that aren't detected as soon because not as many people are using it. So I would stick with, as far as your main system, using something that's more popular. If you're just playing around and trying out different systems, try any of them. Just don't put anything very important on one that isn't as well developed. Other than that, for beginners, Ubuntu or Linux Mint, and I'm running out of time here. I could go on about why I like the interface, and I can also go on about the people who complain about Unity and why, even though I'm not a big fan of Ubuntu, why I think Unity is a good thing for Ubuntu, even though I'm not going to be using it, any plans in the future to use it. So I'm really running low on time. Maybe that's something we can discuss next time we have a Google Hangout on why I think that people who complain about Unity are crying little babies. So that's it for today. No offense to anybody. These are just some of my personal opinions, and I hope that you have a great day.